There are things that we don't tend to talk about that we should talk about.
Should we?
I've been coming to Punta Cana since 1993.
93?
Yes.
Was there anything here in 93?
Yeah. Everywhere you look, there's some new project that's worth looking at.
A little nervous, very excited.
Yes, that was brave.
What did you do?
And at the end of the day, an investment is just a way to accelerate your dreams.
There's no time like the present. Hi, welcome to the Punta Cana podcast. My name is Cheryl Henderson, your guide to Punta Cana living. On today's episode, we have Raimundo Perello. I wanted to say that in Spanish. But for all of you who can't roll your R's yet, we can just call him Ray Perello.
Thank you.
Ray is with Banco Lafise, which is a local bank here in the area, and we are talking about banking, financing, and those topics today. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
Tell us about Lafise Bank.
Sure. Lafise Bank is a multinational bank. We are represented in 11 countries. Our headquarters are in the United States, in Miami. We've been doing banking all around Central America and the Dominican Republic for about 38 years now. We're a multiple bank. We do everything a bank should do.
We have so many people who are always asking us about banking in the Dominican Republic. We get questions like, what kind of bank accounts can we open? Can we open bank accounts in dollars, in Canadian, US? What kind of bank accounts could people open, for example?
We have the availability to open accounts, savings and current accounts in dollars and in pesos. We also do savings accounts in euros. The accounts that are in foreign currency are usually or are only in savings accounts. But if you need a current account in pesos, you can also have one in pesos here.
And a current account is like a checking account. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you would actually get a checkbook.
Yes.
And it's in pesos, Dominican pesos.
Of course. It's not as common to use a checkbook anymore. Most people like to use a debit card, which we can link to your checking account.
Speaking of linking to checking accounts, that's the checking account with Lafise Bank. Can they connect that with the bank in the United States as well as a bank account here in the Dominican Republic? How does that work?
What usually happens is our clients tend to wire transfer from here to the States and back. We go through a corresponding bank. In our case, we use Citibank. We can also use Bank of America or any other bank that has us accredited over in the States. There's no direct linkage between Dominican banks and US banks, but there is a corresponding bank which allows us to move money back and forth.
That's great because sometimes we get questions from people if they open a bank account in the United States and they open one here in the Dominican Republic, if they could just go to a branch and make a deposit to the bank in the other country. And you're saying that would not be possible because the money would have to go through an intermediary bank or corresponding bank.
Correct. And that's basically because we're different states. There's the United States and there's the Dominican Republic. So the banking laws are different. And because of that, all the money that's circulated in the Dominican banking system has to stay in the Dominican banking system, and all the money that circulates in the U.S. banking system, well, has to stay in the U.S. banking system. But through corresponding banks, which are banks that link different states with the currency in each country, that allows us to have wire transfers that can go internationally. You can have any bank in the States and you can wire money here as long as it goes through our corresponding bank.
I also get questions from people, many questions about loans.
Loans. Yes.
Talk to us about loans. How do loans work at Lafise?
Loans work at Lafise practically the same they do at most places in most countries. What is different here is how we measure risk. So there's three basic things that we have to look for when we're giving out loans. One of them is the capacity of payment, which is mitigated basically by your income and the evidence of your income. The other thing is the guarantees, the collaterals for the loans. In most cases, we use collateral as properties. These properties have a value on them that has to be appraised by a certified appraiser. And because of regulatory reasons, we're only allowed to take up a percentage of the appraised value as a collateral for the loan. And the third thing that we take into account is obviously the risk factors, the risk factor of the company, the risk factor of the property you're buying, the risk factor of the person who's taking out the loan. We go through two processes of evaluating people who are taking out loans, and one of them is done in the States. The idea is that we can use the credit scoring and your credit history in the States to qualify for a loan in the DR. And the other part is getting the qualification needed regulatory-wise here in the DR. But once we have an approval from our main office in the States, it's a lot easier because you already have an approval. Then what we have to measure here is not so much risk as it is to what the collateral is, what property we're putting up as collateral, what's the desirability of that property, and the value.
So there's a appraisal process, there's a qualification process on the individual. Sounds pretty similar to how loans work in the United States.
It is. It's pretty similar. I think the main difference here is that the appraisal process, the value process of the property that we're evaluating, the property that we're going to lean into for the loan, has to be checked by regulators, not only by the risk process inside the bank, but also by risk processes that are outside the bank. But other than that, it's pretty much the same.
So people should definitely have good credit.
Yes.
Okay, so the credit score is important.
Yes.
Banking history.
Your banking history is useful in most cases, or in the best part of the cases, just to verify income. One of the things we ask for is for the last 3 months of your bank statements. And the idea of having that is just being able to see what comes in and out of your bank accounts. Once we have that, we're able to verify with pay stubs or any other type of income that you may have, that you're actually moving the amounts that you say you're moving, and that we can use those amounts to calculate the availability of your assets to repay on any loans you might be contracting.
And tax returns, is that a requirement? Do you ask for that?
Yeah, we do ask for that, but that's more something that we are asked for by the U.S. government. We need to have the evidence that you are paying your taxes, that they have been paid, that there's no delinquency on your tax returns. And also, when you open accounts here, we ask that you sign a W-9, which is for the same reasons, in order for us to keep up with compliance of money laundering and other things that come into a factor as a risk factor because of the country that we live in.
Really, I think that's something that is global. The Money Laundering Act and having to fill out paperwork that is know your client, KYC, that's nothing that is specific to the Dominican Republic. It's really global.
Yeah.
The last couple of years that has been so important. And the know your client form, just for everyone to know, it is not that complicated. It is your basic information. It's like an application,
Yeah.
but there is one line that says, I acquire my money through legal means.
Yes, exactly. Like you said, it's not something that is exclusive to the DR. As I said, we have operations in 11 other countries. It's the same thing. It's kind of tedious because when you fill out your loan application, it has practically the same information as your KYC. It is regulatory. We do need it. And it's not hard. It's very basic information.
Yeah, like name, address, social security, and basic stuff
Yes.
for the know your client. So it is not that scary, but it is a requirement in order to move money or to get a loan or anything.
Or to open an account.
Speaking of the accounts, are there minimums that are required in the accounts? For example, if people want to open an account, if there's somebody sitting right now in Texas, and let's say they want to open an international account, could they do that?
Yes, of course.
Remotely?
Yes, of course. Obviously, they'd have to fill out the proper paperwork. It can be done online. We can send copies of the forms and they can be sent back to us. The minimum amount that needs to be in a US dollar savings account is about $300. We do have other types of accounts like money market accounts, which are more inclined to have investments in bank instead of a CD or a certificate of deposit. It's the bank account that has a higher remuneration or it has higher interest rates for your money, but it's readily available. Those accounts do require a minimum that's a little bit higher. I think it's around $5,000, but it has interest rates that compound on your money, and it's readily available in an account as it would be in a savings account.
That's actually news to me because I've not had conversations about money market accounts. I do know about the checkings, the savings accounts, and CDs, but there are money markets. And with the CDs, you actually lock your money up for periods of time, just like we're familiar in the States, but there are money market accounts with Lafise where it's a higher balance
Yep.
and there's a higher interest rate and it's
Yes.
readily available.
Yes.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yes, you can negotiate rates practically the same, a little bit under what a certificate of deposit would be, but it's still high enough where it's interesting to evaluate if you want to have your money readily available, but making some money because it's there, you have an option.
That's great for people who may be interested in buying a property in the future and starting their savings for their deposit.
Of course. The whole reason the money market accounts exist in the DR, especially for person clients, not just companies, that people can have the option to save up with the value of their money actually increasing and not only just sitting there in a savings account where it's not doing anything.
Right.
So if you want to set up a money market account and you want to make the compromise to grow your deposits and use it eventually in the future for your investment, then that's also an option you can have.
Great. So is there any kind of consideration from the bank if someone would do that?
Of course, depending on the amounts, depending on what your plans are with the account, negotiations are available.
That's very good information. And talking about credit and how you evaluate people to get a loan based on their U.S. credit report, what is the process to establish credit here in the Dominican Republic, for example? Is that something different or is it the same? Or could an American get a loan here in the Dominican Republic based on Dominican credit report?
Yes, if you already have established credit here in the DR, we can evaluate a loan based on your credit here in the DR. If you don't, then we can rely on your credit score from the credit ratings and the credit reports from the States. What's needed to get credit here? Well, time.
Time. Okay. Yeah, I imagine you have to show that you're credit worthy.
Yes.
How can that be done?
The easiest way to get credit here would probably be to get a credit card. You can apply for a credit card, and one of the easiest way to get a credit card is have it backed by a CD. You open up a CD. Let's say you open a CD for $1,000. You can get a credit card for $1,000. Once you start using your credit card, you start building up on your credit. After 3 months, you have a full build up on what your credit could be, and it tends to grow pretty fast from there on out.
That's very good to know. So about 3 months to establish credit here and then qualify for a loan?
More or less, yes. The bigger the credit card, the faster you can grow your credit. Credit here is really based on history, especially for people, not companies. The credit report reacts to every 3 months of how you handle the products that you're handling with one or another bank. They are consolidated, they are regulated. You can have multiple credits with multiple banks and they will all be evaluated as one. But I think the easiest way to start credit would be through the use of a credit card, and you can back a credit card with a CD, and it's very low risk. It's very low risk for the bank and it's really low risk for the consumer.
And this is all in dollars, I would assume. Open a CD for $1,000 US, attach a credit card to it, use that credit card, say, at your local convenience stores or locally at home in dollars, and pay it off to establish good credit. And then to be able to apply for a loan here to buy a property based on Dominican credit.
That's correct.
Okay, so now you know what you may need to do. And in about 3 months, that gives people time to look around and see what they may be interested in, because this is a question we get a lot from people is credit, how does that work, loans, and those kind of things. So it's good to really have clarity and understand how that process works.
Yes. One thing to keep in mind is credit cards in the DR are a lot more expensive than they are in the States. We do not recommend that you finance your credit card. If you look at it as you can have an instrument, a credit instrument, where you can finance 50 days, but no more than that, then we do recommend that you use it. As long as you have the discipline to pay it off every month, it'll build your credit really, really, really fast. What we do not recommend is to finance your credit card because it's really expensive and it's really deteriorating to your credit score.
That is a very good tip for everyone to know, that do not finance your credit card. Build up $1,000, get a CD, then attach a credit card, pay it off every month, establish credit, buy a home.
Yeah, and you don't have to use the full amount of your credit on your card. You can use just a part of your credit on your card, and you can pay it off every month. And let's say you set up a CD and you want to use that CD as collateral for a credit card. We'll give you a credit card for practically the same amount. But you don't have to use the full credit on your card every month in order to build credit. You can use half of it. You can use a quarter of it, whatever is really needed. What builds your credit is on how well you pay off your debts.
Right.
As long as you're not financing, as long as you're paying it on time, as long as you keep the ball rolling, it'll be a lot easier to build up on your credit score.
You mentioned a distinction between financing personal and financing corporate. What is the difference?
So as I said earlier, we are a multiple bank. We do banking in different sectors, and we do corporate banking, we do commercial banking, we do banking for small businesses, we do private banking also, and we have retail banking. The main difference between financing for personal and for commercial is who is taking on to the credit. So when we talk about corporate or commercial banking, commercial loans, we're talking about an entity, which is a company who's taking on the loan. Basically, the same criteria are used to evaluate companies and people, except that for companies, we do need a little bit more history. Companies tend to have financial statements. Derived from those financial statements, we'll look into the company, see how they're performing. We do look into a few ratios and to how much debt it's into the company, how much assets are in the company, how are the assets financed. And companies are used many times to buy properties so that the loan doesn't have to go through a single person. Companies in the DR are usually set up as limited liability companies. Limited liability companies usually have more than one partner. It's a way where you can use a legal vehicle to invest not only by yourself but with somebody else and eliminate or mitigate some risk.
Yeah, I asked that question because many times we recommend that if people are buying in groups, that they establish a Dominican corporation. And then sometimes the question is, can that corporation finance a property and put the title in that corporation's name and get a loan? And how does that work? So how much time would they need to establish themselves or establish credit if somebody comes and says, I want to get a company and I want to finance through the company?
So if you're buying a new company or you're setting up a new company and you come in with one or more partners, you're not going to have any credit history. So it's going to be based a lot more on who your partners are, what's their background, what's their capacity of payment, what's their net worth. But it does help when you have more than one person who's responsible for any loans. You can buy properties through a company, which is a legal vehicle, and we will evaluate the purpose of that property. If it's going to be for renting, if it's going to be a buy and lease or to sell further along the road, if you're going to buy before the property is finished, if you want to gain equity on the property because it's being built and at the time you want to buy it. There's a few other factors. It does take a little bit longer. The process is a bit more invasive between the banks and the people who are going to be responsible for the property or for the loan, but it is possible. If you already own a corporation, you already own a company in the States that wants to buy a property in the Dominican Republic, we can evaluate your company in the States and underwrite a loan for that company, even though it's a non-Dominican company.
Really?
Yes.
Would they have to get a Dominican entity for that?
It would be a lot easier because of the legal process of ownership of properties. You can have a subsidiary company that is bought by your company in the States here, which is going to be the owner of the property. But at the end of the day, the responsible for the loan is going to be your company in the States.
That's good to know because I've had many people asking, can I use my U.S.-based company? And I understood that there still needed to be a Dominican company for some kind of a tax ID number. So a tax ID number can be attached to a U.S. company?
Not exactly. It's a little bit more complicated than that. There are ways to include a U.S. company as the responsible for the underwriting of a loan, but there should be an intermediary who does have an RNC, which is a Registro Nacional de Contribuyente, which is
Basically
a
tax ID,
Yeah,
a
it's a
tax
tax
ID
ID.
number. So RNC is a tax ID number.
What we've had before is companies in the States, they set up a small company here in the DR.
Okay.
It becomes their subsidiary, and that subsidiary becomes the owner of the property. But for evaluation purposes, we don't use that Dominican company. We use the U.S. company.
Well, that is very good information and important information because many U.S. investors already have their LLCs set up, and those LLCs may already have credit. So at the end of the day, they would just need to open a Dominican company just for the tax ID, but they're still using the credit history of their U.S.-based company for the purchase.
That's correct.
Okay.
So it is possible for corporations to apply for loans in the DR, especially when it's about buying a property or buying multiple properties. What you do need is an intermediary. It's pretty easy to set up a limited liability company in the DR. It can be set up by a group of people or by another company. And let me give you an example. Just last week, I have a client that wanted to purchase a property here in Punta Cana. His idea was that he needed to mitigate some liability risks. And what he did was he went to a lawyer locally. He set up a small LLC. He bought the property under the LLC's name, under the limited liability company's name, which in Dominican Republic is an SRL. The process was pretty smooth. What happens within the bank is that we set up a three-way contract where distinctive person.
Imagine waking up in paradise. Forget about those ordinary all-inclusive resorts. Welcome to Boutique Hotel Las Flores, a secluded oasis in the heart of Punta Cana. Come, let's take a look.
So, Ray, tell us about you.
Ha, me. I was born in Santo Domingo. I'm not going to say how many years ago. I was raised in Santiago. I went to an American school in Santiago since I did everything. I did kindergarten, I did elementary school, and I did high school there. I went to the university in Santiago, the Pucamaima. I went to engineering school. I have a degree in industrial engineering, and I have an MBA in Barna Management School. I've been in the banking industry since 2010. But I'm actually an entrepreneur at heart. I like setting up small businesses and selling them and watching them grow. However, I think I also like a lot the part of financing and the corporate world and just generally helping people realize their investment needs. And at the end of the day, an investment is just a way to accelerate your dreams. So it's very fulfilling when I get the opportunity to see somebody have a dream of owning a property and making that dream come through financing.
And that is really fulfilling when they're so happy, they sign the paperwork, they're a little nervous, very excited.
Yes.
They get the property, they get the keys.
And I love Punta Cana. I've been coming to Punta Cana since 1993.
93?
Yes.
Was there anything here in 93?
Yeah, there was not a lot here. When I was growing up, my parents had a company. Well, they still have a company. They set up finishing, furnishings, and extras for hotels. One of their biggest or first projects was a hotel here. And I remember we had to come and go into the hotel through the beach because there was no road.
What? Through the beach?
Through the beach.
By boat? By plane?
No, actually, we would roll containers and trucks and cars through the beach in order to get to the hotel.
Wow. Before there were roads.
Yeah.
When I got here, there were dirt roads. I tell a story about dirt roads. How about no roads?
Yeah, how about no roads? And there's a funny story. We rolled up a container, a 20-foot container, in front of the hotel at the beach. We were unloading a container, and we started unloading one side at a time. Once we were halfway there, the container tipped over.
Oh, my gosh. What did you do?
Everything in that container went bust. Luckily, we had good insurance.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
But I do know the area. I've been coming for a long time to the area. I love Punta Cana. It's a magical place. It's a place that it's easy to live. Life is a little bit slower. You feel like you're not working all the time. You do work. It is a competitive world. You still have to do your rat race, but work ends every day. And it starts again the next day, but there's space to live.
Yeah, because you get done with work and you're 5 minutes from the beach. So you can literally kind of go into vacation mode.
Sometimes less.
Exactly. Like here, we're literally 2 minutes from the beach, walking distance.
I can see it from here.
Exactly. That's very nice. And that's what I really love about Punta Cana. It's great to hear you mention that, because for me, my dream was to be able to work and feel like I'm on vacation or retired all wrapped in one, versus working for 30, 40 years and then going on that extended vacation. It was like mix it in.
Yeah, and another reason I really love Punta Cana, even though I've been coming here for a long time, the essence of it doesn't change. It's getting bigger. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of investment opportunities. There's a lot of new things, but it's still the same. It's the same feeling you get every time you come. And there's a lot of great stuff that's coming up. Like I said, investment opportunities. Everywhere you look, there's some new project that's worth looking at.
Yes.
Nothing is done not deliberately. When you think about it as an investment, right now is a really good time, because right now it's when it's starting to accelerate. But you look around and you see so many opportunities yet to be fulfilled. The thing we have most of here in Punta Cana is land. And when you see a lot of land, you see a lot of building that's coming.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of opportunity that's coming. And you see that we're still a baby. It's been a tourist spot for 30 years, but it's still a baby.
I believe that. Sometimes I get asked the question, is it too much? Is it saturated? There's a lot of construction. And all I say is, did you look out the window when you came in on the airplane? It's just green. Or if you look at Google, all of the construction and development is just a very small percentage of the area. It looks from the ground, it looks like a lot, but from above, we're just really beginning, like you said, to accelerate. There's no time like the present.
Excluding the resorts, I think you can still walk all of Punta Cana.
Well, it depends on how fast you walk. You may be walking a marathon because it's like 30 kilometers of beach along the coastline.
Yeah, that's
a lot.
awesome.
You have dreamed of the perfect Caribbean beach lifestyle. With Boardwalk Developments, we have the blueprint for you in this tropical paradise. Celebrate incredible returns when you elevate your investment portfolio with the hottest real estate in Punta Cana. Invest wisely, live lavishly. We'll show you how. Contact Boardwalk Developments, Punta Cana.
Tell me about these entrepreneurial businesses. What?
Oh, I've done so many things. Like I said, I worked with my parents for quite some time. Before I got into banking, I would be coming up to Punta Cana many times. I would come to Punta Cana at least 2 or 3 times a week.
From Santiago?
From Santiago, and it was a long way here. After I got into banking, I started coming for other reasons, and I got into my last stage of my career, which is in Banco Lafise. I got into Banco Lafise about a year ago. By the way, I think I haven't said this. Lafise means Latin America Financial Services.
Latin America Financial Services.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that. I saw the name and I thought, what is that? Because we have banks like Banco Popular and basic names like Ban Reservas, and then there's Lafise.
Yeah.
Latin America
Yeah.
Financial Services.
It sounds like it's really, really Spanish, really, really Latin, but actually is, short for English words. So
Interesting to know.
going back to my entrepreneurial spirit, there's a few other things that I like to get into. I have a really small company. It's a software development company. It's a commercial CRM for collections. We have a CRM, which is short for customer relationship management, and it's a platform where you can manage your relations having to do with collections. The other thing I pour myself into whenever I can is a small business that I have with my wife. We develop card games that are determined to create conversations. They're actually conversation starters. And it's very entertaining, but it's also very educational.
So a card game meaning we pick cards and there's a question or there's a truth or dare, or what are the dynamics
something
of this
like
card
that.
game?
Yeah. There's a few versions of it. There's a version that's for families. There's a version that's for couples. There's a version that's for friends and a few other more. The whole idea is changing the dynamics of conversations on your daily life. There are things that we don't tend to talk about that we should talk about.
Should we?
Yes, we should.
Okay.
And the idea is that every deck of cards has about 60 questions, except for the one that's for couples, which has 69.
69.
On purpose. But the idea is that you pull out a card, the card has a question on it, and you start debating on it. These questions should draw you away from common topics of every day, but also bring to light things that usually are either taboo or people are afraid to talk about or not commonplace.
So, give me one question, the first one that comes to your mind right now.
What made you feel brave last year?
That's a good question. I'm not going to answer it right now.
I'm expecting you to.
No, I asked you the question about what the question was, and then I will think about, and everyone out there can think about that question. So that's homework. What made you feel brave last year? And put it in the comments, and I will do the same.
Well, I'll answer for you. I'll answer mine.
Okay. What made you feel brave last
I
year?
moved to Punta Cana. That was brave.
That absolutely was brave. But it doesn't have to be as brave as it was maybe like 30 years ago or 20 years ago when you first came. So was it really that brave?
Nah.
So tell the truth. Tell the truth, Ray.
I got married again.
You got married again? Yeah, that's brave. Now that is brave. I love it. I love it. So we'll definitely have to share information about this card game because it's for sale. We can find it.
We actually have an app. It's on the App Store on Google Play. It's called Hablemos Sin Filtro. Translated English is Let's Talk Without a Filter.
I like that.
Yeah. You can find it in a few places here in Punta Cana and Santo Domingo. Closest one would be Brot.
That's in Punta Cana Village?
Yeah,
or?
that one.
Okay, so they sell it?
Yes.
Okay, so I will definitely go there and get the game.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. The family one, I do play a lot with my kids. Creates a great dynamic for conversations.
Oh, how old are your kids? Tell us about your family.
I have 2 kids. I have 2 boys. One of them is 11. The other one is 6. My 11-year-old is really strict. My 6-year-old is not.
That's how it is with kids. They come with all different personalities and characters. So is one like your wife and one like you? Or
Yeah.
Exactly. Which one is which?
Well, the strict one is like my wife.
Because you're happy-go-lucky, fun-loving.
Yeah, I like to think so. I was the class clown.
You were a class clown, and now he's a finance guy working for the bank.
Some people don't understand it yet.
I know, because I got to know you as the finance guy, and now you're telling me you're the class clown. So
Yeah.
I'll have to hear some of your jokes.
Uy, I have many stories. I did come to Punta Cana because I do see a lot of opportunity here. I do see the growth. I do see the interest in many sectors to expand to here. It's a great way of life. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to do whatever you need to do. You want to raise a family, Punta Cana is great for that. You want to work, Punta Cana is great for that. You want to retire, Punta Cana is great for that too. As Lafise, as Latin America Financial Services, having our main office, our corporate office in the States, we do like the idea of helping U.S. citizens, vets, Dominicans with U.S. citizenships. We do love the idea of helping you finance whatever dream it is you have or you want to have in Punta Cana.
And I love that. And that is why we have you here today. You mentioned vets, and I'm involved with Veteran Solutions International. That is one of my businesses, and that's how we actually got to know each other. What are some of the special benefits, or are there special benefits for veterans looking to finance or open bank accounts or do banking?
Other than just benefits, I think it's the appetite. I think the Lafise as a whole, as a corporation, wants to help out that community specifically. I think that there's great opportunity for us as a financial institution to give back to that community. Obviously, we are really grateful for vets. I think that just having the opportunity to have a financial institution that's open and grateful and wants to help out, that in itself is a great benefit.
Yes, I definitely agree, and I can attest to working with you and working with veteran clients and the respect, the courtesy, the going above and beyond. I can absolutely attest to, and I thank you for helping us with what we're trying to do and being a part of what we're looking to accomplish as Veterans Solutions International to provide that support to veterans.
Well, we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that.
As a tradition on the podcast, we like to take a question from our fans. Choose one and I'll ask you. Okay. What online options are there for part-time residents?
Ooh, great question. The banking world has been evolving very quickly towards digital solutions. We are not one to stay behind. So we do have a very easy to use, very user-friendly app. It is very safe. We have taken very many measures to ensure that the use of the app is as safe as can be, and it's available in English.
You have an online app that connects to the bank in English.
From anywhere in the world.
That's amazing because many of the banks in town are in Spanish.
Yes.
And our clients actually have to learn how to navigate the app in Spanish. But there's nothing wrong with learning those Spanish words, but you have to get over that hump.
Yes.
So your app is in English.
Yes, we have it both in Spanish and English. And the idea is to facilitate the transactions you have to do when you're not here.
Yes.
You have to pay your bills. You have to pay certain services. You have to pay certain people who you need for one reason or another to have something done for you. And instead of having to transfer or wire transfer from the United States over to a local bank account, you can use your bank account in Lafise from the United States on your app and transfer money here. You can also check your balances. If you have a credit card, you can check the availability of balance on your credit card. And it makes it a lot easier to manage assets here in the Dominican Republic, even when you're not here. We do believe that virtual banking is the thing of the future. We do believe that the less you need a person to explain things to you, the better off you are. Our app is available on the App Store. It's available on Google Play. You can download it. And once you have an open account, then we'll give you a username and a password, and we'll give you all the instructions you need in order to make transfers locally and internationally. It's pretty easy to use, and it makes life a lot easier.
That is great information. And I'll tell you, it has been so great having you here with us today on the Punta Cana podcast to enlighten us about banking and financing and your game, which I'm definitely going to get. Can you tell our subscribers how to reach you?
You can find me at the local branch here in Punta Cana. We are at the Edificio Noriega, the first floor. You'll see our sign there. You can reach me on my cell phone, which is 809-390-2274. And you can call me directly to the bank, 809-541-4100, extension 5300.
Excellent. And of course, we'll have that information in the description so that people can absolutely connect to you and continue their process of banking in the Dominican Republic.
Well, I thank you a lot, Cheryl, for inviting me over to Punta Cana podcast. I've loved this time we've spent together. I'm available for you whenever you need me, and anybody who wants to contact me, well, you have my contact information, and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys.
There you have it, another episode of Punta Cana podcast. If you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button because we have more interesting episodes coming in the future. Thank you so much.